Hi, my name is Caroline Wyand. I'm studying ISM this year. I decided to have a focus in advertising and brand strategy. Before telling you what I've learned through the processes within an advertising agency, I want to talk a bit about myself. I am a senior at Frisco High. I'm the youngest of 6 siblings, 3 brothers and 2 sisters, and 1 in-law. I am currently employed with 1 job, and right there is my best friend Josie, which I probably couldn't live without because she sends me like daily scenes of the office, and that's important in a friendship. And then also a big part of my life is Kids Across America, which I volunteer every summer at. And as you can tell from most of these pictures, I've met a lot of friends there and a lot of people that have inspired me, and it's just kind of just a really big influence in my life. So one of the main reasons why I wanted to study advertising this year is because I got fascinated with packaging, brand identities, and old advertisements through Pinterest, and it kind of just like started building up to a board, and then I kind of started drafting my own, and made me kind of wonder, like, maybe I could do this in life. And so ISM gave me the chance to see if I would really want to do advertising, gave me the first-hand experience that I was looking for. So over the past 12 weeks in advertising, I've been able to do like such first-hand experiences, in addition to opportunities to learn about advertising through interviews, essays, and field trips. My first interview was with Trip Westbrook, and he was very helpful because he taught me how every single job in an agency interacts, and kind of brought up that strategic planning wasn't really what I thought it was. I'd originally thought that it was more on campaigns, and turns out it's a lot on research. And so he recommended that I talk to Firehouse Agency's strategic planner, who's Emily Thatcher, and she kind of told me the ways that they conduct research and how they turn it into meaningful work for the creatives to create advertisements. My third interview was with Ross Rawitcher. She's a VP at Publicis Hawkeye. Her interview was really informational because she highlighted how important keeping up with trends in advertising is. And then later that day, I had an interview with Suzanne Irish, who's an account director at Square One. Her interview kind of brought up the issues that account directors have to deal with. One of the main things is having to keep up with keeping the staff happy and the clients happy, because if you focus too much on one, the whole entire process falls apart. And so her job is really fundamental in the agency. In addition, her interview kind of made me turn away from accounts, because she talked about how if you're not a people person, which I'm not totally a people person, so that job would be really exhausting for me, and so I decided not to go in the account and focus more on brand strategy. My next interview with Greg Guzman. He's in data and analytics, which kind of works on research and surveys, but also works to improve the clients' websites and help out customers with issues they're having with the websites. His interview kind of taught me the importance of having research and putting that to work in order to enhance the customer's experience within each of the each of the ads that are coming out. So and this kind of goes along with trends too. You kind of want to put an ad on every single social media, but in a way that it's not too overwhelming for the customer and they don't get annoyed. So looking at how much you can advertise to a person without them really noticing, and using research to find that out. My next interview was with Marissa Magera. She's a brand planner at the Richards Group. Like Trip Westbrook, she kind of taught me how the different groups within an advertising interact, in that most of her day is spent collaborating with creatives and accounts to make sure that everybody's on the same page, and that every product every project that they're working on is made into something that is perfect for the consumer and the client. I later had an interview with Crystal Anderson, who's a strategy director and co-founder of Three-Headed Monster. She really taught me about taught me the reasons why she wanted to start her own agency, and that kind of surrounded how big advertising agencies have gotten. A lot of the agencies are kind of run by 3 heads, and it's kind of like it's mostly Omnicom. And Omnicom has several companies and is all over the globe. And the problem with those is that they'll look at every single agency within the United States and decides, well, overall the United States is not doing well, so we'll cut the staff by 30%, when in fact Dallas is really doing good and New York is really doing good, but Chicago is the one that's making a problem within the United States, but they don't really care. They'll just cut everybody. And so that's been a problem, because there's people who are losing their jobs that don't really deserve to lose their jobs. My last interview was with Sarah Allen, who is a brand planner at the Richards Group. She really taught me a lot about what leadership looks like within an advertising agency, and what type of leader has made her succeed, and what type of leader held her back. And since she was recently promoted to a director, she's been really thinking about what type of leader she wants to be. And she said that she kind of wants to be a leader that's open to talk and will give her honest opinion on her work, the people, or she wants to give her honest opinion on her workers' work that they make, but also wants to encourage them and give them enough freedom so that they can succeed on their own. And she said that leadership that embodies those values have really made her succeed in her career. Through these interviews, I was able to pick what I wanted to study, which was brand strategy, and found a mentor who was Mrs. Anderson. And I picked her because I felt like we had a lot in common, and I sensed that it would be a good fit. Research essays were crucial in teaching me about the field of advertising, because articles I read, like the Career Outlook, taught me a lot about the different jobs within an advertising agency, and the Career Outlook also taught me some basic terms to use when talking about advertising stuff, I guess. My second essay was an article over 10 things a man learned when over working in an advertising agency. So that kind of went over what not to do, what you should do, and what things I might encounter in my career. So that was very helpful to me. The third was really interesting because it gave me, like, it was something that I had seen all the time, and it was something that I've seen all the time, but we don't really know what it's called. So native advertising is kind of when you're on your Instagram feed or your Pinterest feed or Twitter feed and it says promoted, and it looks just like a regular post that like someone else posted, but it's actually an advertising for a company. And that's been a really big movement in advertising, and kind of goes along with like keeping up with trends and how to reach your customer and your target market, because nobody watches TV ads anymore, and so you have to find out, okay, where are my consumers now and how can I actually reach them? And then the fourth was about entrepreneurial advertising, and that's been a really big movement when it comes to agencies, because companies and agencies want to make sure that they get the biggest amount of profit, and by doing that they have to lower their costs and think like an entrepreneur. And so by doing that, they have to think of, okay, how can I do research with a lower cost, because focus groups cost so much money, and so they're kind of moving towards only online surveys, because they can do that with $50, whereas a focus group can cost like 20 grand. The fifth one is advertising trends, and this one was really good because it gave me kind of insight of what I might be working in a few years. And it was kind of scary too, because every agency is moving towards incentive pay so that their workers are not just like putting out the minimum, but they're putting out the maximum so they can get paid the most. And companies are now being branded through technology, and so it's not, okay, like I buy this product and this is how the product makes me feel. It's more like, okay, this is what the company said on Twitter, so this is what I think of the company now. And it also put importance on client-agency relations, and collaborating with them is now like more important than creativeness. The next thing I did was the UNT trip, and I took 2 classes that related to advertising. One was professional selling, and kind of went over selling to different personalities. And this is going to be important when pitching to clients, because you want to make sure that your sales pitch is selling specifically towards your target and not against their personality and their beliefs and their values. The next class I took was over marketing and product life, and this is important to know whenever you're advertising, because let's say your product is in the maturity stage, you want to put out ads that emphasize brand loyalty, and rather than, let's say you're in the introduction stage, you're wanting to put ads more of, okay, this is what my company is, this is the values, and this is what my product is, and explaining what the product is going to be and how it's going to be useful to the consumer. And then I'm going to go ahead and start talking about my original work. And the quote that I picked was from one of my favorite movies, The Dead Poets Society. No matter what people tell you, words and ideas can change the world. And this quote connects to my original work and my final product, because I wanted to make a company that encouraged their consumers through their advertisements, rather than saying, oh, if you don't have my product, then you're not as cool, or just having like meaningless ads. So the kind of company that I wanted to make for my final product is like an office supply company that kind of, their values are expressing yourself and is about encouraging others and kind of just like being yourself, because a lot of people, they're not used to being themselves, and they're kind of thinking like, okay, this is what other people have, this is what everybody else is buying, but we're not really focusing on like what we want to do and stuff like that. So my brand is gonna kind of revolve around that, and for my final project, I wasn't gonna actually create the company, but I wanted to create advertisements for that really just like encouraged people. But before I create the advertisements, I have to do a creative brief. So to create this creative brief, I have to conduct research. So I'll be looking at like what's used now in offices, So I'll like take pictures of what people are using in offices, and then conducting surveys with people who use office supplies, looking at the office supply market, and looking at what's made office supply companies succeed and fail, and the marketing strategies that went along with those. And after I conduct that research, I'll gather the data and then analyze the data into a meaningful information in order to create the creative brief, which will move in towards making my advertisements. So, yeah.